Meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Tuesday, December 10th, 2002. City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. or as close to it as possible. Meetings are open to the public, and we invite you to join us. For those of you unable to attend, council meetings can be viewed live from home on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Burnson, Galanter, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Holden, Labange, Mizikowski, Pacheco, Perry, Reyes, Ridley, Thomas, Weiss, Stein, Padilla. 10 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. This being Tuesday and the first meeting of the week, as is customary, we have both a salute to the flag and a moment of inspiration scheduled. Let me recognize for an introduction, Councilmember Nick Pacheco.
Mr. President, the Pledge of Allegiance, you want to do first? Okay. Everyone rise, please. Face the flag, put your right hand over your heart, and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. President, first Tuesday every month, we have an invocation. I want to bring up Father Tom Schweizer. Father Tom, where are you? Where is he? Go ahead. Father Tom is the current pastor at Holy Angels Church for the Deaf. Has been in the priesthood for 20 years. Many of you may not know this, but Holy Angels Church of the Deaf is beginning its second 10-year run. Father Brian Dorn began this church in 1993. Holy Angels no longer sees itself as recently established, but rather takes its place among the older viable parishes of Los Angeles Archdiocese. Holy Angels is located real close to my district on the city of Vernon side. It is a personal parish established to serve the Catholic deaf community. Of the 300 parishes in the Archdiocese, Holy Angels is the only freestanding church serving the deaf community in Los Angeles and also in the entire country. It is responsible for the spiritual welfare of the Catholic deaf community in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Following many years of loving, compassionate, and dedicated service by both ordained and lay pastoral ministers, the deaf community and the deaf people in our archdiocese participate in the life of the church. Many of them bring their own unique languages and their own cultural identity. The idea and support of the parish began straight as a grassroots project from the deaf community in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. It is this reason that it has grown and succeeded because the deaf community has taken responsibility and supports the success of the ministry of Holy Angels Catholic Church. So I asked Father Tom to come by for our moment of inspiration. Father Tom.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be here. This is the first time I think I've ever preached or given a talk to such high-profile people. It's like, I imagine that everybody here gets tired at the end of the day. It seems like every day is another struggle. There's a sign for struggle, going back and forth, and you're finally thinking, where does all this come from? And I think it comes back from way right at the beginning. I often talk to kids, and I say, what is the first word a baby learns to say? Usually, mama, okay? And then second word, daddy, maybe. If daddy's lucky, maybe that'll be the second word. But I always say, well, what do you think the third word a baby learns? And there's some idea, love. I said, oh, please, get real. I love you like that. No, usually the third word is either me, especially mine. And even when they learn the word mom, it's not because they want to give something to mom. or to say, Mom, I love you, what they're trying to say is, Mama, I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. Mom, the world is all about me. And so we grow up, we're born selfish in a sad way. We're born that way. It's the way we just always think about ourselves. We always talk about watch out for number one. That's always been the big motto for a macho guy. Take care of number one. And we find out when we start growing older that that doesn't get us very far. That we have to think, well, I have to begin to think about sharing. And so even a kid, maybe 5, 6, maybe they have 3 pieces of candy. You know for sure maybe they're going to share 1. But by God, they're not going to give 2 and keep 1. It's always me, and it's always come down to me. And we spend our whole life struggling against that temptation, that natural inclination that we have to think about me. What is in it for me? How is it going to help me? And I like to think that just about every conflict, every problem you can have in the city, you can have in the country, in the world, is when somebody wanted to say me or mine. It's about me. This is what I want. This is what's going to make me happy. Even when you take that 1 cup of Starbucks coffee, you finished it, and you put it down and you walk away. The point is, who's going to pick that up? Who's going to clean it up? All I'm saying is, I don't know, but it's not going to be me. Remember, it's all about me. Or when you're driving down and the guy cuts you off, first of all, why did he cut you off? Because the guy said, I want to get in sooner. I want to avoid that traffic, so I cut in. And of course, you probably have a few choice words, maybe a gesture. We don't use that in sign language, that gesture. But you might think that you're thinking everybody knows that sign, and you're thinking, why? Because I have been hurt. I have been cut off, and my pride is hurt. And so I'm just thinking, well, we who are like followers of Jesus, we call it grace. We have to work for grace. Ask for grace. Basically, it's asking for help. Help me get over this. Help me to resist this natural temptation to think about me first. And we're going to struggle for it all our lives. Nobody ever gets to a point where it's just totally somebody else. There's always going to be that little bit that's going to be natural for us. So when we go into our city, our families, our communities, the next time you want to put down that cup or that can or toss it, or the next time you want to think, where can I get my parking place closer? Who can I cut off? Or there are struggles that you're going to have in your debates, in your struggles to do what's good for the city. If it comes down heated and it gets to be a little bit stressful, and if it starts to get really be angry, maybe we just have to stop and say, okay, what is it I'm saying? How is this about me? Good luck in your work. Good luck in your struggles.
Thank you, Father. Thank you for being with us. Madam Clerk, before we begin with the matters appearing on today's agenda, we do have 2 presentations scheduled. Let me begin by recognizing Councilmember Weiss, followed by a presentation from Councilman Labange.
You give your camera to that man right there and come on up here. You can trust him, sort of. Get his name or something, but come on up. Great. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. This is a really wonderful occasion for me on a personal level because, we all have mentors, in our lives, in our careers. I mean, every single one of you around this room this morning has had significant mentors, and we very rarely get to have the opportunity to recognize and honor our mentors in person in a formal setting like this. And so I am extraordinarily pleased today that I get to have the opportunity to join all of you in recognizing the extraordinary service of the Inspector General of the Los Angeles Police Department and one of my mentors, Jeff Eglash. And I'm joined up here by many of the great staff members of the Inspector General's office, also by Jeff's wife, Karen, by his son, Elliot. Elliot, where are you? There's Elliot. And his aunt and uncle, Carol and Al. And it's a real privilege for all of us to be here. Any of you who've been reading the newspaper the last couple years know of Jeff's accomplishments at the Office of Inspector General. I just want to say a very personal word. When I started in the U.S. Attorney's Office, Jeff was one of my very first supervisors. He supervised a department or a division known as our complaints unit. He was head of complaints. There are probably a lot of days when you feel like your job is you're head of complaints. But when Jeff was head of complaints, he was probably the most powerful person in the United States Attorney's Office, because the most powerful position in the U.S. Attorney's Office is the one that signs off on indictments. And it was Jeff's job to sign off on dozens, hundreds, probably thousands by the time you were through, of federal indictments. Every single case received such extraordinary care and attention, and every single defendant received the fairest treatment imaginable under American law, and in an environment where, unlike his current job, there were no spotlights, there were no TV cameras, there were no reporters. It was just a bunch of lawyers sitting around a conference room trying to do the right thing. Jeff Eglash always did the right thing in that job. He was one of the go-to people in the United States Attorney's Office for ethics, for legal advice, and for trial strategy. I used him on numerous occasions in each of those capacities. And then for the last several years, he has taken this to this office, the Office of Inspector General, and he has made it into exactly what it ought to be: an independent, forceful, fair voice for law enforcement, for reform, for ethics, and for change in this city. We owe an enormous debt of gratitude to Jeff Eglash for what he's done over the past several years in this office. He has definitely established the model, not just for the future Inspector General, but indeed for the Independent Monitor as they do their work overseeing the police department. And remember, one day, and it won't be that long from now, that position, the Inspector General, will take over the duties of the Independent Monitor. And we will all be grateful that Jeff Eglash was there in the critical formative years, setting the tone for how that job should be done and for ensuring that it was done correctly. And it's my hope that one day, we got a terrific police commission, we've got strong police commissioners, but one day, undoubtedly, there will be a vacancy on that police commission. And I can tell you truthfully, as I stand here today, there will be no finer person in the city of Los Angeles to serve on the LA Police Commission than attorney in private practice, Jeff Eglash. Jeff, congratulations and thank you on behalf of the City Council of the City of Los Angeles.
Chair recognizes Ms. Miskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff, to you, your coworkers, your family, and to everyone else who is listening, I commend you for the job you've done. And we, as you know, have many people come before us who accept tough jobs in the city. But by far, I think the job that you accepted is the toughest, the hardest job in the city of Los Angeles. And it takes a very, very special person to say, I understand that, I know it, and I can do the job. And to leave the office, to leave the institution far better off than when you came into it. You have really helped to make that position, the very, very important position of Inspector General, something to be reckoned with, something to be recognized, and taking on that incredibly other difficult institution, the Los Angeles Police Department, but by a vote of the people saying that we need this position, we needed this position and recognized it far before the Department of Justice came here and started to look at it, and we were on the way, on the path to be self-critical, to be self-inspecting, to be self-assuring to the public that our police department is doing its job fairly and justly. And as Mr. Weiss says, I can't think of a better person who assumed that position, but how lucky it is that whoever comes and inherits that hardest job in the city of Los Angeles will come after you because of what you've done for that job, for that position. And I think one other measure of sort of assurance, if we needed any, that this is the toughest, the hardest job in the city, is to look at Jeff today and look how relieved he looks, how happy he looks, how much, I think, taller he looks because of that burden that he did carry with those who are behind him and those who are his family for the years that he served in that job, accepting that burden. But it was a tough one. It was a hard one. But you are leaving not only with dignity, you are leaving the office with dignity and a sense of fairness and justice that it was meant to be. And I think with that, obviously, you can hold your head high, which is why you look the way you do today. So congratulations, and thank you for the service you provided.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I must add my congratulations to you, Jeff. I know that it's been a difficult task. I know that in the headlines, sometimes you wonder, what am I doing and why am I doing it? But it has been a very important position within the police department. In the history of the department, there's been 2 inspector generals. You're number 2 inspector general, and I know that your mark will remain. I know that your staff, which you really had a bare-bones staff and not a lot of the support that was really necessary to carry all those functions, you did well with that. So I congratulate you and wish you well in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Mr. President, members of council, Jeff, I think I met you the first week on the job when I was working for Mayor Reardon, and you were at the graduation of the academy and a Valley resident. We talked a little bit, but I think it's so wonderful that you did serve this city well, and you, as Council Member Miskowski spoke, took it to a higher level. You know, each time we have an opportunity to come to the plate and to do something for the team is the community, and you certainly did that. You brought it to a higher level. I always like U.S. attorneys because they're the supreme attorney for the justice of this country. So it's a real important, your transition from coming from the U.S. Attorney's Office to the City of Los Angeles. And now I hope in your next adventure that you have as much joy and happiness. And I look at that beautiful family and friends around you, and no one could trade that for anything in the world. I just wanted to thank you for your service to the people of Los Angeles, to the Los Angeles Police Department, and to the Office of Inspector General, because the next person who holds that office will have some very big shoes to fill, and will have to raise the bar higher than you did, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, council members. I want to thank the members of the City Council, and especially Councilman Weiss, Councilmember Miskowski, Councilman Labange. Thank you all very much, Councilman Zine, for your very kind comments. It's truly been an honor and a privilege to serve as the Inspector General for the Police Department for the last 3.5 years. My service as Inspector General has coincided with some truly remarkable events in the LAPD's history. When I started, we inherited controversial police shootings like the Margaret Mitchell officer-involved shooting, and that was followed quickly by the Rampart corruption scandal, the negotiation and subsequent implementation of the federal consent decree, the discussions over the term of the former Chief of Police Parks and the selection of Chief Bratton. And so it seems like it's really just been one major issue after another, but one thing I can say is that meant that my job has never for a moment been dull. One of the constants during this up and down time period has been knowing that the Inspector General's office has the very strong support of the City Council. I've often felt tremendous pride and confidence in knowing that the members of this body are very supportive of the concept of strong civilian oversight that I think the Inspector General's office embodies. And it's not just the current members of this council, but I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude as well to some former members of this body, such as Councilmember Jackie Goldberg, Laura Chick, and Mike Fuhr, all of whom were very strong, early, and ardent supporters of a strong Inspector General's office. Because I think this body recognizes the importance of a strong Inspector General's office, one idea that I think is worthy of consideration as you all move forward with consideration and debate of various reforms is to have an Inspector General who reports jointly to the Police Commission and to the City Council. It has often been said by some that the Inspector General for the Police Department is not a true Inspector General. In fact, one person who used to tell me that pretty much daily is sitting over there, former President Chalif, who used to tell me that I was not a regular IG. Well, in the federal system, nearly every federal agency has a strong Inspector General's office, and that have proven effective in fighting waste, fraud, and abuse. And one of the hallmarks of federal inspectors general is that they report jointly to the agency head and to the City Council. And one of the strengths of that system is that it ensures that critical investigations or audits of their department don't get stymied, but in fact get aired publicly. And so as you consider various ideas for strengthening oversight of the Los Angeles Police Department, one of the structural changes that I would recommend to you is considering that kind of a dual reporting system. I think it has a lot to offer for it. This is not meant in any way to imply any criticism of the Police Commission. I think that the people of Los Angeles owe an enormous debt of gratitude to the outstanding men and women who serve for no pay and for little credit in a very difficult and very thankless job. They contribute incredible amounts of time, energy, and wisdom to their job, and I think we have a better police department, and the city is truly indebted to the commissioners for the fine and outstanding work that they do. I also come away from my service as Inspector General with nothing but respect, admiration, and awe at the difficult and dangerous job that our police officers have. And their bravery, their professionalism, and their dedication should be a real source of pride to the people of the city of Los Angeles. I'd also owe a tremendous debt to my outstanding staff who's gathered here with me today. None of the work that has been done by the Inspector General's office could be done without their enormous contributions, and I'm very fortunate to have had the assistance of so many fine and talented people. And I want to single out a couple of them. In particular, my Assistant Inspectors General, Nicole Bershon, formerly of the City Attorney's Office, and my longtime assistant and very good friend and now newlywed, Andre Barat Jr., who just came back for this from his honeymoon. And I'm very ably assisted by Andre, Nicole, and the other people that you see gathered behind me today. And I want to thank them very much for all their outstanding service and contributions to the Inspector General's office and the Police Commission. I want to close by saying that we're once again facing a grave challenge in policing, controlling escalating crime, and in particular violent gang-related crimes that have recently seemed to have taken over our city. Now, our department, our chief of police, our mayor, this council, the police commission, all our city leaders have rightly made public safety and dealing with gang violence the #1 priority for the police department, and that is as it should be. But along with that challenge comes another equally important challenge, and that is to deal with this rise in violent crime in ways that don't threaten to bring back the abuses and excesses that have sometimes plagued our police department in the past. So I want to leave you with the thought that crime control and meaningful reform of the police department are not mutually exclusive ideas. So my hope is that this body and its Public Safety Committee and the Police Commission and the rest of our civic leaders will not allow the war on crime to eclipse the gains that we are making towards having a police department that is responsive and sensitive to the communities that it serves, and that respects, preserves, and upholds the rights that we all cherish. Again, I'm grateful to you all for the recognition. I'm grateful to Councilmember Weiss for this recognition, and it's truly been an honor and a privilege to serve as the Inspector General. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much for your years of service and leadership. For our next presentation, the chair recognizes Councilmember Labange.
Congratulations, Jeff. What are you going to do? Where's the mayor's representative?
Okay.
You want to come out here and shoot? You want to talk? Mr. President, members of council, good morning again. And we have a distinguished delegation that's here from the World American Cultural Exchanges. And we have someone all the way from China who's here. It's a music exchange that has helped, as we know, humanities is what drives the world. And I believe that music, as we all know, and culture is what does that. We have a very special professor here, Zhang Li, who's with us today. And I have a certificate on behalf of Mayor Han to salute Zhang Li for her travels to come here and exchange in music with others, and want to officially join with all of you to welcome her to the city of Los Angeles. Okay, you want to speak? Yeah. You want to say some words? Translate. Go ahead.
OK，我非常感谢洛杉矶市政府和美国人民给我这个至高无上的荣誉。
Thank you, Council. Thank you, City of Los Angeles. Thank you, American people. Give me this such an honor here.
作为一个声乐教授和一个歌唱家，说我只能用我的歌声，和教出很好的学生来回报，美国人民对我的厚爱。
As a voice professor, what I can do is teaching have a good students, do good job, and return your honor to me.
Thanks.
Shay Shay. I like it. Say that again.
谢谢。
All right, Shay Shay. Larry Colvin is also with the Southern California Motion Picture Council, who will just say a few brief words to tell us about this important program.
It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to award China for the outstanding entertainment in the field of motion pictures and entertainment. We traveled there back in April, and I was overwhelmed with the talent, and it's an honor to bring them to the Los Angeles to give them an award from the Motion Picture Council, which has been in operation since 1936. Frank Sinatra, Elizabeth Taylor, Robert Mitchum, many other stars have received this award. And thank you for bringing us here today. I really appreciate this very much. Thank you all.
I appreciate that. And Mary Stewart from the World Exchange Program, which helped bring this distinguished professor here. Get up here, friend.
The purpose of World American Cultural Exchanges is, of course, to bring countries closer together. And in this case, World American Cultural Exchanges worked very closely with Larry Colvin and the Southern California Motion Pictures Council in order to recognize entertainers in the field of music and film and recording in this country of China. The Southern California Motion Pictures Council had its 66th annual Celebrity Luncheon on December the 6th, at which time Lily Zhang, Professor Zhang Li, was recognized by that fine organization. I want to thank the City of Los Angeles, Mayor Han, and City Councilman, and especially Councilman Tom LeBon, for making this a very worthwhile cultural event and an exchange that I know that will bring the United States and China closer together. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to take
Thank you.
pictures in just a moment. Give her a big hand now. Big hand. And Mr. President, if I could have 32 more seconds there, we welcome this distinguished person from China, but also have a special recognition back from the days of Paul Revere. Please turn around here. Welcome Sandy Tennant. He's all the way from Boston. Get up here, Sandy. Come up here. Professor, this is a former captain of the Harvard football team. He played the great position of center and linebacker, can snap the ball back, perfect spiral, Mr. President. Never missed a snap. Alexander Tennant is here in Los Angeles. I've known him for years for his work with the House of Blues Foundation, which is a program that the House of Blues operates where they send school buses out to schools throughout Los Angeles to learn about music and the history of music and the history of the blues. I just wanted to take this opportunity, following the great professor from China, Ms. Lee, to welcome a great man from Boston, Mr. Sandy Tennant, captain of the Harvard football team. Here we go, right here, Butcher. You want to say something? Don't say anything political. Just say hello from Boston.
Well, I wanted to say thank you. In case you folks didn't know it, Tom was a center as well. That's why we have an alliance of centers. Thank you.
All right, good. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members. Shay. Come on in back.
Thank you, Councilmember Labange. Madam Clerk, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Pacheco moves and Mr. Garcetti seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Holden moves and Mr. Reyes seconds.
Before beginning the regular agenda, there are several items to continue. Item number 2, a request from the Department of Building and Safety to continue that matter to December 17th.
Members request to continue item number 2 from the department. Without objection, item 2 is continued.
A request from the city attorney to continue several of the closed session matters, 86A, B, C, and E, and that would be request to be continued to tomorrow, December 11th.
Members request to continue closed session items without objection, so ordered.
And also request from the city attorney to withdraw 86D from the agenda and refer that matter to the city attorney.
Okay. Members request to withdraw item 86D, also without objection.
On the regular agenda, Mr. President, there are 2 commissioners to confirm, items 41 and 42, Ms. Cheryl Sabin and Mr. Gregory Martayan, and that's for the Commission, Children, Youth, and Their Family, and a public hearing has not been held in committee.
Okay, if these commission nominees can come forward at this time, please come forward. And members, without a public hearing having been held in committee, we're required to host a public hearing here at the full council. I have not received requests from members of the public to address the council on the confirmation of these commission nominees, so we shall deem the public hearings satisfied. Chair recognizes Mr. Weiss.
President, and as chair of the committee, I would like to formally move approval of both nominations and ask my colleagues to join me unanimously in confirming them. I warned the nominees beforehand that I would take a few moments to embarrass them. So let me just say that each of you are going to have a great opportunity, and you're going to contribute so much to this commission, and you're really going to help turn this commission around and turn it into a real force for our kids. And it was fun just a few moments ago, Ms. Saban, talking with you and hearing what you said. And if you don't mind, I'm going to repeat something you said, which is that you wouldn't do this unless you could really use it as an opportunity to make a difference. And I think that is the most admirable reason for serving on a commission that I can think of. And I will do everything I can to ensure that you and your fellow commissioners, I see Mr. Arkatoff here, have the opportunity to really use this commission as a force for change for our kids in this city. And I really look forward to your service, to your leadership, and to all the good deeds and good work that I know you're going to do in serving on this commission. Now, you're one of my constituents. Mr. Martine, you're another one of my constituents. And as I told you at committee the other day, I'll do it again. I'll give you one last chance not to do this. You just started college. You have been involved in every volunteer activity under the sun. Your commitment to the community is extraordinary. We talked about it at committee. Your parents are here. I can only begin to imagine how proud they are of you. And they're going to be very proud of what you accomplish on this commission. So I wish both of you well, and I urge my colleagues to join me in voting to approve your nominations today. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Mr. Holden.
Commission on children, youth, and their families. You have a family, sir? You married?
I'm actually 18. I just started at Pepperdine. I'm a freshman in college. Hopefully soon, though.
Mr. Holden qualifies
we got
for
some
youth
time.
candidate.
We
You
got
got a
some
lot of
time.
experience. Let me just say this, that this is a very, very, very important commission. Our children need to hear the message early in their life, and their families as well, about how problems can grow in the family and in the community, and how they can avoid those problems. For the most part, you are very sensitive to those issues, I'm sure. Otherwise, the mayor would not have selected you to serve on this commission, or you would not have accepted. I just want you to know that from my office, even though you may not be from my district, we have the guy who was responsible or initiated, who started this commission on children, youth, and their families. He was a council person at the time. You might call on him for resource information. That's Mike Hernandez. He's done a lot for us around this city, and so I just want you to know that. So in any case, I'm going to vote for your confirmation. I trust, or shall we say, I know and believe you do an excellent job.
Thank you.
Ms. Miskowski.
I just wanted to both rise in support of both of the nominees, but also to let Mr. Holden know that Mr. Martayan, who is the youth member, he is on the Youth Advisory Council now of the Children's Youth and their families, and he was chosen by his fellow youth to be their representative elevated to this, and he was and is the CD11 member of the Youth Advisory Council. So his commitment to families, to youth, to programs, and willingness as a young person in particular to participate in that at this level, I think is outstanding, and it's to be commended. So I think he's going to be a very, very able member to bring that perspective as well to the commission. So I am happy to support, as Mr. Weiss recommended, both nominees.
Thank you.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I too rise in support of both these nominees for this commission. I've known Cheryl in the past, and Cheryl has already a great track record of, in my opinion, helping our young people and our families. So I think you're actually a perfect candidate for this commission. And this commission, in my opinion, is one of the more important commissions in the city because it really does deal with, at the utmost level of what we do in the city, and that's what we do in terms of our youth, our children, and our families. So I wholeheartedly support Cheryl. Gregory, you are a freshman at Pepperdine?
Yes. Yes, I do.
My son is a freshman at Pepperdine, and I don't know why his uncle didn't appoint him to this, but that's another story. Aren't you in finals this week?
We are in finals. I actually rearranged my schedule so that I could be here today and Thursday, so I could be here for voting to have quorum at the meeting.
That's very impressive. I really do think you're a great role model.
Thank you.
Most freshmen in college don't have extra time to be involved in public service, but we really do commend you, and we thank Pepperdine for working with you for you to fulfill this obligation.
Definitely.
So I'll hook you up with my son, and maybe you
Definitely.
can influence him in the right ways in life. So I recommend both of you for this commission, and I'm happy to vote for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Gruhl.
Hello, there we go. Pleased to stand up also in support of these two appointments. I served on the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, as did Tom LaBonge, Ed Reyes, Mark Ridley Thomas, who was here. So in a few years, you too will be a city council member, and appreciate your willingness during college time. And when I served on the Mayor's Youth Council, it was at UCLA my first 2 years, and it was a wonderful experience. And I give credit to that experience allowing me to be a city council member, so look forward to that. Cheryl Saban, we are so lucky that you are willing to give some of your time to the city of Los Angeles. For those of you that don't know Cheryl, she has been a leader in children's books on children's issues and women's issues here in Los Angeles, but also across the country. And we are just thrilled to have you as a member of the commission, and know that you're going to be an excellent addition, and look forward to working with you. But we are very lucky to have both of these candidates here, and look forward to having them serve on the commission. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, The motion to confirm both appointees is before us. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. You're both confirmed, and thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you.
We'll send that forthwith as well to the mayor. Next item.
Next item, Madam President. Item number 1 is an item noticed for public hearing. It's a management district plan for the Encino Business District, and there is an ordinance on the file.
All right, this is a public hearing. I see no cards. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 1, the Encino bid? Seeing no one, does anyone on the council wish to speak to this matter? Seeing no council members wishing to speak, the ordinance is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That matter is approved, and we will send that forthwith to the mayor as well.
Next item, Madam President, items 3, 4, and 5 are appeals for building and safety and confirmation of assessments.
All right, we do have a card submitted on item number 5, and we have, so we'll call that special. Anyone wishing to speak on items 3 and 4? If not, those appeals are before us. Motions are required. Are there any motions from the floor? Item 3 is in CD 13, item 4 is CD 6. Let me have Mr. Garcetti make a motion on item 3 for confirmation, and Ms. Gruhl for item 6. Those matters are before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, those matters for the appeal, our confirmation of the assessment is approved. Next item.
Next item, Madam President, items 6, 7, and 8 are ordinances confirming or abandoning street lighting districts.
All right, those are also items where motions are required, items 6, 7, and 8. Anyone wishing to speak on those? Seeing none, called special. Those matters are before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are also approved.
Next items, Madam President, also public hearing items 9 through 12. Those are, council's action should be to continue the hearing and ordinance to January 7th, 2003.
We're going to be continuing on all of those, 9 through 12?
Yes, Madam President.
All right. There is a card that was submitted on item 10, Mr. Jim McQuiston, but Jim, we're going to continue this until in January, so if that's, if you have no objection, we'll hold that and continue the matter for the hearing protests on those 3 items. Next item.
Next items, Madam President, items for which public hearings have been held, items 13 through 40. Item 40 has 2 reports on the file, and the recommendations do differ slightly. Do you wish to call that special?
Let's call item 40 special.
And also, I understand on item number 28, there's a request to make a technical amendment on recommendation number 3 to add "or designee."
All right, since there's just that technical amendment to add to the language, we'll consider that an amendment so we can consider it at this time. Mr. Garcetti?
Can we send 26 back to committee, please?
Okay, Mr. Garcetti has requested that item 26 be returned to committee. If there's no objection, then item 26 will be referred back to committee. And item 28 has the technical amendment. Yes, Mr. Reyes?
Madam Chair, item 32, continue 1 day, please.
If there's no objection, per Mr. Reyes' request, we'll continue item 32 1 day. Mr. Zine, did you? 33 special. Any other requests?
Madam President, I'm sorry, I was out with our delegation here. The item number 78, I believe it is?
I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
only on the 13 through 40.
I
All right,
jumped
any other items to be called special 13 through 40? I'm sorry, 39, 29. Mr. Holden calls items 29 and 31 special. And members, there are cards on item 26 and 31. 31 has been called special, so we will have discussion on that. And 26 went back to committee, so for the speaker who wanted it, Mr. McQuiston again, I think, who submitted that, that will be coming back to committee. All right, with those items called special, the other items are before us. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those matters are approved. Next items?
Next items, Madam President, items for which public hearings have not been held, items 43 through 84.
All right, items 43 through 84 are before us. We have cards submitted on item 50 and item 78, so those items will be called special. Yes, Mr. Holden?
16 forthwith.
16 will go forthwith. Thank you. Any items for discussion of the council to call special from 41 through 84? 46 called special.
One more.
46 by Mr. Burnson.
46 and 56.
60, item 60 is also to be called special by Mr. Garcetti.
56 also?
I'm sorry, what item?
46 and 56.
46 is called special. Any others, members of the council? All right, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item.
Next item, Madam President, is closed session item 85. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
Yes, we'll hold that on the desk till we've concluded the other items.
Going back to the,
Yes, Mr.
Can we
Garcetti?
do 25 and 27 forthwith, please?
Items 25 and 27 will go forthwith to the mayor. All right. I believe we return to the items called special.
going back to the items called special, item number 5 was called special for a card from the public.
All right, item 5 is a confirmation of an assessment on a project in the Council District 15, and there's a card submitted. Would Mr. Celedonio Montiel or Antonio Montiel come forward? Come forward to the podium and address us? Please begin.
Sí, quería... yo quiero que me haga favor de explicarme este papel que yo no entiendo. Lo único que le entiendo es de que tenía yo una cita para el día de hoy a las 10 de la mañana, porque supuestamente tengo un bill de 1,600 y... fracciona...
The reason why I'm here today is because I received a letter in the mail that I had an appointment this morning at 10 o'clock, but I don't understand. I need someone to explain what this is about. All I know is that it shows that I owe $1,697.81.
1,000. This is 1,000. So, yo como les dije hace rato, no entiendo esto porque la propiedad se acaba de comprar hace 3, 4 meses y yo no sé qué es, supuestamente esta propiedad fue cerrada en el 2000, pues yo de esa propiedad no sabía nada.
I had no idea that this property existed. Apparently, it sold 3 to 4 months ago. The property was closed apparently in 2000, so I had no knowledge of this property. So I don't know what this is about.
Ms. Hahn?
Thank you. Well, if I may suggest, since it sounds like nobody really knows what this is about, I would suggest that we continue this item and that, Andy, you spend time explaining this to the gentleman, and we decide what we're going to do later, if that's okay with everybody.
Would you like to continue it to tomorrow or later today or a week?
How about a week?
All right,
So
we will
we can all
continue this
understand it.
for 1 week so that we can become clear as to what's going on and whether or not there was a sale of property. So this matter will be continued for 1 week, and the staff will work with the gentleman to clarify and provide information. Thank you. That will be the order then on item 5. Next item.
Next item, item number 29, was called special by Councilmember Holden.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Holden for item 29.
Mr. President, Madam President, I just want to ask some questions here. The staff person, regarding these type of bonds, like $53 million for the loft apartments or the affordable, tell us something about this program. I think I'm seeing it for the first time. If I'm not, let me know if it's been around for some time.
It has, Councilman. It came before you approximately a year ago when we approved the DDA and initial action to issue the bonds. It's a 264-unit project located near Staples. It's a pretty standard housing.
This is 264?
264.
They have lofts, et cetera?
Yes, combination. Lofts would be on the ground floor and then 5 stories of housing above it. 20% of all the units will be restricted to 50% area median income and will remain for the term of
You're talking real fast.
I'm sorry.
Say that again about medium income?
20% of the units will be restricted to 50% of area median income, or very low by definition.
Say it again, 20%?
Of the 264 are approximately 50 of the units.
Approximately 50 units that will be restricted to medium income.
Very low income.
What's medium and what's very low?
Very low.
Which one, is it medium or very low?
Very low.
What's very low income?
50% of area median income.
What numbers are we talking about?
Published.
Medium income for
The city of
Brentwood
Los
is-
Angeles.
What?
For the city of Los Angeles. I don't have the specific numbers.
Well, because when you try to rent these places, they're not available and you don't earn enough money to be there, and you say medium income or very low income. That you got to give us those numbers. How you get it out of the committee without giving those numbers?
Median income is approximately $40,000 a year. Those qualified would be at $20,000 a year annual income. And then affordability is defined as 25% of adjusted monthly income, or they would be paying approximately $350 a month.
They'd be paying about $350 a month for 50 units.
Correct.
Of the total amount. Of
Correct.
That's 20% of the total amount that you're billing.
Correct.
Okay. Well, let the record show then in numbers that the low and very low, however you put it, income person would qualify and pay no more than $350 a month. Is that what you just told me?
Yes.
And that the developer cannot request or require any more than that. They cannot require anything out of the ordinary that would preclude the individual from living in those properties, like 3 months in advance, first and last month rent. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
All right. So for first and last month rent with a security deposit, but at the same time, if they qualify for that they be charged no more than $350 a month.
Right.
Ms. Perry, is that part of this report? Yes or no?
Your particular question, Councilman, has not been part of this report.
Ms. Perry, you support the medium and low income. Would you stipulate then that it should be $350 a month as he stated for the 50 units? Well, then then you make the motion, do that, and I'll second it. Or I can do it, whichever you like.
Either way is fine with me.
I so move.
All right, I'll second it.
She seconded it. All right, good. Thank you. So at least the people that we care about and supporting will be protected.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. That item is now before us. Item 26. Please open the roll. As amended, the committee report was amended. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is approved. Next item.
Item number 31 was called special by Councilmember Holden.
Chair recognizes Mr. Holden.
I think we need to know something about this court enforcement and what it really means and for the landlord tenant. Anybody here?
Can we have the staff come forward and give us a report on this item? Do you want to give a brief summary of what the issue is?
Yeah, my name is Ken Simmons from the Housing Department. This is an expansion of a series of enforcement programs that result out of a controller's audit of our department. We expanded the REAP program about a year and a half ago to include post-78 buildings. To be consistent with our other enforcement programs, the Controller's Office suggested that we also expand those programs to the other enforcement programs, which means that the urgent repair program, the utility maintenance program, and the property manager training program be expanded to post-78 buildings. The second feature of this that we're trying to accomplish is right now all the enforcement programs are covered by the general fees that are either paid through rent registration or the systematic code enforcement program. What we're trying to do is explore with the city attorney how to attempt to recover costs from those properties that actually incur the cost of these programs rather than getting them from the general fee. That's essentially what this is attempting to do.
Does this have anything to do with administrative costs?
It will include administrative costs as well as field enforcement costs.
And who's paying the administrative costs at this time?
The rent registration program.
Would you explain to the council, to the public, how this works and how you propose to change it in terms of administrative costs?
The way we propose to change it is that whenever...
Tell us how it works today.
Okay. Which program in particular?
The administrative cost aspects of it.
For each of the programs?
For REAP, for this REAP.
Oh, for REAP alone?
Yeah.
Okay. The REAP program, the way we do administrative costs in the REAP program is if a tenant participates, we take a $50 fee off of their rent that they provide to the city.
And they pay the rent to whom? To the city?
Yes.
And to the REAP program?
About 14% of them pay the rent to the city. The rest do not pay the rent to the city.
Okay, you're talking real fast. The public don't hear you and I don't either.
14% of the tenants pay rent to the city. The other 85% do not pay rent to the city.
Or who do they pay it to?
The landlord.
They pay it to the landlord.
Right.
And what does the landlord do for the $50 that's required to manage this program?
Well, the landlord, 85% of the landlords don't pay anything to the program. Also,
we work on the 14%.
Yes.
So the 14% of the tenants that pay the rent to the city,
right.
$50 of that goes for administrative costs.
Yes.
All right. And for those tenants who pay directly to the landlord, the city receives none of that money, even though the property is in the REAP program. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, how do you propose to change that?
Instead of based on not basing the fee on those who participate, but basing the fee on when the property enters the program.
So therefore, the tenant will either pay if they're paying directly to the city, or the landlord will pay the $50 if the tenant chooses to pay the landlord their rent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's how the program will change. So you're receiving then about 85% additional $50.
Yes, sir.
Times, which is how much more money do you anticipate?
If I recall, the amount is over $1 million.
Over $1 million. That's an assessment. It's going to be much over $1 million. That's per month.
No, it won't be that high per month. There'll be collection issues. There'll be all kinds of issues.
How much you charge per month? The $50 from the tenant is per month, isn't that correct?
$50 per unit per month.
Per month?
Yes.
Then the landlord would be the same thing if he's paying $50 per month. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
So, come on, lay it on me straight. Then it'll be much more than $1 million in the course of a year. Maybe it's $50 million per month?
No, it won't be $1 million a month.
You don't even know what
sir.
your answers are.
It won't be $1
Madam
million.
President, let me ask him some questions on the side. We can continue this for one day. There's no urgency, and I'll have the information. You'll have that for me, won't you?
Sure.
Well, one day.
All right, there is a request from Mr. Holden to continue this matter for one day so that further information can be obtained. If there's no objection to that, that will be the order. That item will be continued for one day. Next item.
Item number 33, called special by Councilmember Zine.
Chair recognizes Mr. Zine on item 33.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On item 33, the request for qualifications and information. This is a project that has been in the works for a long time. It was a project by the police department where they do telephonic reports. And if you look at today's headline, LAPD arrest plunge, one of the reasons is we don't have enough officers on the street. And many of these officers are doing reports which could be done in a telephonic process. So I would ask my colleagues to support this, which will assist the officers spending more time on the streets, expedite the report process through a telephonic reporting system, and it will be a benefit to the community because when people need a report, they'll be able to get it in a timely manner instead of waiting, as they do now, months to obtain that. So I'd ask for an aye vote on that item to get that request out so we can streamline and bring up to date the police reporting, and these are non-emergency type reports that will be taken by the telephonic report system. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. That is a recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to go out and release this RFQ. Any other questions? The chair recognizes Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the questions that I'm hoping we can get through this process, we get a breakdown of how many rape cases are by district, so we can get a feel for where the load is in the city and how we are dealing with this kind of important infrastructure. So I'd like to make that request. We can get a REAP analysis by districts. We'll know what kind of impacts we're having on our local communities to see how this revenue is being dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's appropriate once we get the request for qualifications, that how they would break it down in terms of where the assignments are and the load is. So that is appropriate to request, and we now have the matter before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is approved. We'll also send that forthwith to the mayor. Next item.
Item number 40, called special, inasmuch as there are 2 reports on the file, a motion is required.
All right, these are 2 different reports from Budget and Finance Committee and Transportation Committee. Do either the chairs of Budget and Finance or Transportation want to move one of the reports?
So, I've pretty much had my questions answered. This is a management contract for the tracks coming out of the harbor along the Alameda corridor. My concern, what was this?
This is item 40, the vehicle
I
release
didn't call
fee.
40 special.
No, the problem is we have 2 committee reports from the Transportation Committee and Budget and
excuse me,
Finance,
okay.
and we just need to reconcile.
I was being briefed on 46.
Actually, they looked similar.
The item, recommendation number 2, the only difference is that the Budget and Finance is requesting the city attorney to report, and Transportation Committee report requests the city attorney to prepare an ordinance.
Well, I think the preparation of the ordinance is more appropriate. We can have the discussion. So then let's go ahead and move the Transportation Committee recommendation. If there's no objection to that.
Yeah, I'm going to move the Transportation Committee report.
All right, that is then moved and before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is also approved.
And then the Budget and Finance Committee report will be received and filed.
That is fine.
Next item, Madam President, item number 46, called special by Councilmember Burnson.
Mr. Brinson has had his questions answered on item 46, so if there's no one else wishing to speak, that is before us. It's a communication from the Board of Harbor Commissioners. There would be a motion made by Councilmember Hahn to concur with the Harbor Commissioners. That matter then is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is approved.
Next item, Madam President, item number 50 was called special. There's a card from the public, and also there is an amending motion, 50A, that has been distributed.
All right, this is an item which did not have a public hearing in committee, so a public hearing is appropriate. We have a card submitted by Mr. McQuiston. Jim, would you like to come forward?
Jim McQuiston, East Hollywood Community Association. We rise to support the idea of having these anti-graffiti measures taken, and we wish it to be expanded into CD13. Our councilman has requested such, and we wholly support him.
Okay, thank you for those comments. This matter is before us on allowing additional participation in the pilot program for graffiti abatement. Seeing no one wishing to speak, that matter is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is approved. Next item.
Item number 56 was called special by Councilmember Brinson.
Mr. Brinson does not need to call that special. Does anyone else want to ask questions? Seeing no one wishing to speak, that matter is before us. Is a recommendation from the Chair of Rules and Election to sponsor state legislation. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is approved. Next item.
Item number 60 was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
The Chair recognizes Councilmember Garcetti on item number 60.
We have an amendment that's just technical in nature that's been circulated, so would ask for your support.
All right, if everyone has the technical amendment.
The clerk doesn't have anything yet on item number 60.
Why don't we... Oh,
Do you want to describe what the amendment is?
it was actually 50, so why don't we actually do this through and let's reconsider 50? I was off by one numeral.
Okay.
We added the amendment, so we don't even need to do it for 50. We're great. I would urge your support of item 60, colleagues.
All right, there is no amendment. This is just a recommendation to waive the fees for the planting of shade trees at the Reseda bid, in the Northwood bid on Reseda Boulevard. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That matter is approved.
Item number 78 called special for a card from the public.
Chair recognizes Jim McQuiston on item 78.
Jim McQuiston, East Hollywood Community Association. We rise in support of this recommendation. We are at the extremes of 3 different police stations, and we have very much trouble getting police to answer our calls. And with the addition of this police station, we believe that we will get a lot better service, and so we wholeheartedly support it. And the area is vacant now. The time is ripe to move on this.
Thank you, Jim. We have the motion before us. Anyone wishing to speak? Chair recognizes Councilmember Labange.
Yeah, Madam President, I'd like to ask the police administrator to come forth and give us an update.
Hi, Yvette Sanchez Owens, Commanding Officer, LAPD Facilities Management Division. Police Department's actively seeking potential sites for the station at this time. That is one of the sites we are reviewing.
Right, members, Councilman Holden and I are working together on this. It's his strong desire, as all of you have, to find that 20th location in the area. This is in the heart of Koreatown at Olympic and Normandy. It is a proposed school site right now, so there's some challenges with looking at it, but it's the absolute site that would serve in the heart of where, if you put a map, where you should be. Is this the correct location?
Yes, we have target areas within each of the service areas. This site is definitely in the target area.
And we'd like to ask for a yes vote on this to go forward, so it gives some strength in the discussions that we would have with the school district to see if the school district could resolve their problem someplace else in the area. They're tight for land as well. In addition, the school district wants all of the Ambassador Hotel complex, which once was a thought for a 20th police station on the A Street side of that property years ago. So there's an opportunity to have some dialogue here. We all talk about working together with other levels of government. This is a great opportunity to see if we can work together with the school district to try to meet the needs of the people for public safety, but also have them meet the needs for the area of public education. I just wanted to ask for your vote as we kind of look at this idea, because land moves so rapidly in the central city that we need to move quickly on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Holden.
Mr. President and members, Mr. Labange is absolutely correct. As we have started the process in the valley to build station number 19, Mr. Zine has been vigorously working to achieve that as a goal, and the people deserved it and needed it for some time. And likewise, Division 20. We voted on bond measures at least twice. And even today, the taxpayers have not gotten their money's worth from these bond measures, let alone the fact that they need additional public safety or some semblance of police presence in an area where crime has been prevalent for a period of time. As Mr. LeBon just stated, you have Rampart to the east, the Wilshire Division to the west, and it's like the Centrex, the center of the entire area. And if you will, where crime is on the rise. And I can't think of any other place in the area that's better suited for a police division, a police station for the 20th than there at Normandy and Olympic, the northeast corner. And so we should begin the process by talking to the school district. We need schools. And we know that elementary schools, there's plenty of areas in that vicinity, and there's schools there already, but we can assist the school district providing other locations for the elementary school, and I will step forward and do that along with Mr. LaBonge. But this is limited space. There's not that many places for police division, and so I urge an aye vote so we can start the process. Send a message to the taxpayers that they're beginning to get their money's worth.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. That matter is now before us. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
That matter is approved, and we will send that forthwith. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item, Madam President, not on the agenda, Special 1 motion presented by Councilmember Perry, seconded by Councilmember Garcetti, and the city attorney will speak to the need to make the findings.
On November 17th, thank you, Madam President. On November 17th, 2002, a fire forced the vacation of a very low-income family from their rental unit at 1151 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. There's a request that the general manager of the Los Angeles Housing Department or his designee be authorized to provide a displaced tenant relocation grant to said tenant in an amount not to exceed $5,000. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2B2 and pursuant to Rule 23 of the Rules of the City Council, this City Council must first make findings that there is a need to take immediate action on this matter and that the need for action came to the attention of the City Council subsequent to the posting of the agenda for today's council meeting.
All right, we've heard the city attorney explain the support for the findings. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
All right, that matter is approved to be heard today as a special. Any other discussion on the motion itself, which is to provide relief and assistance for folks in this particular unit? If seeing none, the matter is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
That matter is approved, and we will send it forthwith. Next item.
Next item, Madam President, this is the time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda under council's jurisdiction.
All right, we will now begin the public comment period. Let me call, we have a number of cards submitted today. Let me call you in order and ask that you line up behind the podium. David Brunk, Alexia Tehran, Noemi Garcia.
Thank you, President. Thank you to the City Council members for this opportunity to speak to you. I will try and take very little of your busy schedule, but just to say that unintentionally an injustice has been done to part of our neighborhood council. We were certified, and without a root cause, 6 weeks later, a large portion was decertified, and we'd like a hearing so we can clarify the matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Alexia, or Ms. Alexia Tehran.
Good morning, and thank you for this time. My name is Alexia Tehran, and I live in Cypress Park. I've lived there for 38 years, and I'm a homeowner. Holidays, democracy. Jimmy Carter, peace, cultural exchange, as we saw here earlier. What is this all about? It's about coming together, working together, and also, what were the last words that we just mentioned when we saluted the flag? Justice for all. I hope that everybody hears that and gives it to us, please. That's what this is about. We're just asking for an equal opportunity. I am one of the people of Cypress Park who did the work and got 1,400 signatures of people who chose with the 6 communities. We were certified on October the 2nd as 6 communities, the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. Why were we carved away or decertified? It's the same thing, no matter how you word it. According to the plan, and if everybody's following the plan, which is the law, or maybe they're not. Why were the 1,400 signatures thrown out for 400 or less? I am one of the people who counted those signatures from the other side. They had less than 300. We have 1,400 signatures. Even if you take away a few of the people who attend the Divine Savior, which is our church, who don't live in the area, it's true, but their children attend that church, therefore, they're part of the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. Our rights were violated. This was done without giving us a chance to state our case. I asked myself, is this a democracy? Are people following the plan? Maybe not. I would just mention a few of the things. I have the plan right here in front of me.
All right, we do have other speakers who'd like to speak on
Yes,
this.
ma'am.
But so if you could just sum up.
Thank you. The goals and objectives of the plan are to promote public participation in city governance and decision-making processes so that government is more responsive to local needs and requests, and so that more opportunities are created to build partnerships with government, address local needs and requests. Ensure equal opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms.
And in
Nguyen.
case you would like to see it, I have a copy of the 1,400 signatures.
Thank you. Ms. Noemi Garcia, Ann Walnum, and Patricia Griffith.
Hello, my name is Noemi Garcia, and I grew up in the Cypress Park area along with my 4 brothers and sisters. I am still a resident there and have many family members that also live there. On November 22nd, a group of concerned longtime residents like myself living in the Cypress Park area sent letters to both City Attorney Rocky Delgadillo and your Council President Alex Padilla to appeal the Bunk's decision of November 19th and be put on the Council's agenda. As of yet, we have not received any type of response to these letters, so that's why we are here. On October 2nd, the Board of Neighborhood Councils made a decision to certify all 6 communities, including Cypress Park, as the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. Prior to that day, both the ASNC and the Greater Cypress Park Neighborhood Council had gone through a required process, which was to submit a completed application, bylaws, boundary specifications, stakeholder signatures, and any and all supporting documentation. So on October 2nd, the board made a decision based on all this information submitted by both sides. The final outcome that day established the 48th Certified Neighborhood Council, the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. Then, on November 19th, the Greater Cypress Park Neighborhood Council had their public hearing, and by a vote of 4-2, the commissioners created and apparently certified the Greater Cypress Park Neighborhood Council from within the boundaries already established by 6 communities of the certified Arroyo Seco. My question that I ask of you today is what changed from October 2nd to November 19th? What other supporting information and/or documentation was received by the board to alter a decision made by themselves on October 2nd? When there is any type of election held, all necessary information is submitted prior to election day and a final decision is made. The only time a decision is changed is if after this election day it was determined that something illegal or false had been previously submitted, a new decision is made.
Ma'am, if I can ask you to conclude, please. We have other speakers.
We have worked very hard to obtain the over 1,400 signatures obtained by Cypress Park ASNC members compared to the 400 received by the Greater Cypress Park. The union of these 6 small communities to form one neighborhood council makes better sense since this will give us a much stronger voice in City Hall. What the board has done is once again isolated our community and limited our capability when we had already been certified and included in a larger process. We want an investigation of the board's action of November 19th and urge you to honor the decision that the board made on October 2nd, where Cypress Park was certified as part of the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ann Walnum, followed by Patricia Griffith.
I'm glad the council president is back. At the conclusion of my remarks, I'm going to give you this report. I consider that this report to the neighborhood council, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners on November 19th is flawed in these areas. Greater Cypress Park was allowed to be granted an exemption from the 20,000 size because it was considered an isolated neighborhood. This report does not include the Figueroa corridor of Cypress Park's businesses. It leaves out IHOP, it leaves out Public Storage, it leaves out McDonald's, it leaves out two other well-known hamburger establishments, it leaves out the Yee air conditioning, it leaves out Lazardi Auto, which are all significant businesses. There's an attempt to make Cypress Park look very isolated. In addition, the main thoroughfare of Figueroa and Avenue 26 by the Northeast Community Plan is shown to have a traffic flow 1/3 of the nearby Pasadena Freeway at peak hour. In other words, about 800 cars pass through that intersection at peak hour. Another flaw in this report that was presented to the commissioners, I consider a severe misleading statement. It says, the applicant has stated that they have the active support of other organizations within the proposed area, such as. This word such as does not mean that they actually have that support. The first time I read this report through, I said, how can that be? These two organizations have said they're not going to take sides. The two organizations are Anahuac Soccer Organization, Cypress Park Chamber of Commerce. The such as does not mean they actually took sides. Also, there is a Cypress Park Historic Society and a Cypress Park Homeowners Association, which nobody apparently has ever heard of. An additional flaw in this report, I've got it highlighted. I hope President Padilla, you can look at my highlighted areas when I give you this.
Yes, ma'am, and I would ask you to
I'm having trouble getting
conclude.
back to my front page. Okay.
If I can ask you to conclude, we have another
Stakeholders are going to
speaker.
be people in large part who do not live in Cypress Park. I want to conclude by saying one thing in relation to the hard work we did collecting those 1,400 signatures. The department rejected those signatures. They said, we don't know what you said when you collected those 1,400 signatures. I and several others worked 6 subsequent weekends to collect those. I know what we said. I said, you have a choice of going with the other 5 communities. We've worked for 3 years on this plan. They've worked for 3 months. We live in the whole area. The 3 leaders who started this so-called Greater Cypress Park don't live in Cypress Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Griffith. And I have one other speaker card with no name on it from the Herman Community of Los Angeles, 6276 Pinecrest. If you can please come forward. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Pat Griffith, and I'm representing the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. I am one of the contacts for the Formation Committee. We are now currently a 9-week-old neighborhood council. We were certified on October 2nd with 6 communities. We're somewhat unusual in Los Angeles because we are a collection of very small communities. The largest is Cypress Park of about 13,000 members. The smallest is Herman of about 3,000 members. We have worked long and hard to try and form an agreement between very small communities that will work for us, that we feel will empower us. Those 6 communities have come together over a period of 1.5 years to work out their own agreements, to work together, and to have a strong voice as a neighborhood council. I'm asking you to appeal, we're asking to appeal the decision of the Board of Neighborhood Councils, which was made approximately a week after we understood that our neighborhood council decision was final, as we came before you at that time to ensure that you would keep our neighborhood council as a whole, as 6 communities. That decision to reconsider was done a week after the final date. It was without any posting. The decision to reconsider was done without any posting in any of our communities. The posting that was done for the reconsideration itself stated that they were going to remove Cypress Park. So the many people in Mount Washington that found themselves now in the greater Cypress Park area had no knowledge of the fact that they were about to be moved out of the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council. I would urge you to consider the board action and restore Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council to its full 6 communities as those communities wished. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. State your name for the record, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry I left my name off. You guys make me nervous. I hope, as a part of this appeal process, I live in one of the 6 communities in the Arroyo Seco Neighborhood Council, that I can paint a human picture for you of what happened 10 weeks ago and what this appeal is about. And because maybe some of it's been lost in the legal language. Some of you are facing re-election this year, or maybe you can remember your last race. What would you do if you ran a tough race and it was grueling, but in the end you won and you got 2/3 of the vote, and suddenly from out of nowhere, after you'd started hiring your staff and telling your people what you were going to do in the community, someone found a rule somewhere or invented a new rule somewhere that said you had to do it all over again. And you had to do it against a new contender who hadn't been in the race, who wasn't worn out from the process. Well, that's what happened in this area that we've been talking about. And hopefully that alone will let you know that sometimes the rules are abused and the process is taken out of order and things don't happen the way we're supposed to. We expected to come here because we'd heard through the grapevine that the city attorney was going to tell you that we had no right of appeal, which seems really odd because everyone should have the right of appeal. But even if there is a ruling that says there's no right of appeal, you're still going to have to deal with this in some form. There is a neighborhood council now that's out of balance because Cypress Park was removed from it. Cypress Park was the 3rd leg of that well-balanced milking stool that it took 3 or 4 years to create. And so that's going to continue to plague the city department. But the part that's probably going to come back to you, and it's not going to come from the ASNC or any of the other neighborhood councils, is the formal complaint that's been filed with the ACLU by a stakeholder in a San Fernando Valley neighborhood council, because the boundaries were based on the religious boundaries of the church within the Cypress Park community and no other civil authority. And that seems to be, to the person that filed the complaint, seems to be a fairly serious problem of establishing a religion for that community, not taking into account the other churches, not taking into account the civil authority. And I don't think that when you folks redistricted yourselves earlier this year, you took into account which church was where and where their parish area was, but that's what happened in this particular instance, and by the end of the public hearing, that was the only justification left for stating the boundaries between the 2 communities, this church-state canton based on the Roman Catholic Church.
Thank you.
I have a great deal of respect for that, but I think that you need to understand that that was done. Thank you.
Sir, your name again for the record, for the clerk?
Joe Reiser.
Thank you very much. This concludes public comment for today's meeting. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next, Mr. President, there's a Special 2 motion. It's not on the agenda, presented by President Padilla and seconded by Councilmember Labange, and the city attorney will explain the need to make the findings.
Mr. City Attorney.
Council President, regarding the matter involving the Arroyo Seco and Cypress Park neighborhood councils, correspondence addressed to Councilman Padilla, who was not in the country at the time, was just recently received by Councilman Padilla. In order to preserve the council's actions under Charter Section 245, and today being the last day to act to assert jurisdiction pursuant to Government Code and pursuant to Rule 23 of the Rules of the City Council, Council must find that there is a need to take immediate action of this matter and that the need for action came to the attention of the City Council subsequent to the posting of the agenda for today's council meeting.
Okay, members, anybody wishing to be heard on the findings? On the findings? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the findings. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, the special motion is now before us. And Madam Clerk, I understand there are more than one motion clauses here?
Yes,
Require multiple votes?
Yes, Mr. President, there are 2 votes required, one to assert jurisdiction and the other to send the matter to committee.
Okay, so the first vote would be whether or not to assert jurisdiction. Is there debate or discussion on whether or not the council should assert jurisdiction? Ms. Hahn.
Just for a point of clarification, do we have to assert jurisdiction to send it to committee? So you assert jurisdiction and then it goes to committee?
Correct. 2 separate votes.
Well,
Discussion, debate on whether or not to assert jurisdiction.
okay, since I still have the floor. This is, as anybody knows me, knows that from the very beginning of this process, I was hesitant for us as a body to assert our jurisdiction over the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners because I felt like these issues really had to be discussed and debated at the grassroots level, and hopefully these things would be able to be aired and discussed and resolved before the commission made its decision. But I'm certainly feeling like that did not happen in this case. I would be willing to vote to assert our jurisdiction. I would love to have it come back to my Committee of Education and Neighborhoods, where I would hope the discussion that we would have would be about policy and would be about conflicts and would be about, you know, what are we doing when there's a conflict, when there's an impasse, when there is a definite disagreement on boundaries. I'm not looking forward to us becoming Solomon and us becoming on every single time a boundary issue came up that we were the ones that made that decision. Look how many hurt feelings we had over redistricting, and that only happens once every 10 years. So I'm hoping that still these issues will be resolved at the local level, but I would be okay with asserting our jurisdiction, coming back to my committee, and then looking at ways that we can resolve conflict before the certification decision has been made. So I think I'm okay with that. So I would be willing to vote for that.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. I just wanted to rise and support the chairwoman of neighborhoods and education and neighborhoods on this issue here, that we deal with it only from a policy level, that we don't deal with it as try to mediate in the sense of make a decision for these two fine neighborhoods that have to resolve this difference, but that we give them some policy direction. So I wanted to stand to affirm support of this as it relates to policy only. Thank you.
Council member, I'd just like to explain that if you're going to assert jurisdiction over the action of the November 19th Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, and that goes to then committee, the action of the committee in terms of that would be to either approve what would happen or veto it. If it's vetoed, you can send it back. And those policy discussions can go on and could be communicated then to the commissioners.
Ms. Hahn on my
Point
time.
of order for Ms. Hahn.
A point of order. If we veto the action in committee, it then goes back to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners.
Yes.
And they then can either make the same decision or make another decision.
Or make another decision
Okay.
based on the input that they've gotten.
Chair recognizes Mr. Labange. Are you finished?
Thank you, yes.
All right, then Chair recognizes Mr. Holden.
Madam President, before you hear from me, I'd like to hear from the author of the motion, the President Padilla, explaining why he did this and the significance of it, if you choose to do so, Mr. Padilla.
Mr. Padilla has pressed a button to speak, so he will.
Well, I was going to ask him the same question so I can hold my time, unless he just want to wait until his time comes around. All right, I don't, these neighborhood councils, I kind of predicted early on that you would have a lot of problems associated with the selection, determining certification of the neighborhood councils, and also I always thought it was going to be misleading in terms of having them know what their limited powers are, if any at all. Once you tell the neighborhood councils that they're going to be all powerful and they're going to have a lot of influence as to what happens here at City Hall, they believe that. And if it's not true, then they've been deceived. And I must tell you that I kind of predicted things like this would happen. When you start dealing with human beings and personalities, they start to choose sides. That's just human nature. And so, for whatever reason, the certification process is now in jeopardy for this particular neighborhood council because somebody decided to choose sides that tend to be more persuasive than the other side, and therefore a conflict. Even if this is, we take jurisdiction that goes to committee, I believe for those who are here, no matter which side you're on, it's called audit compromise. We may be able to work this out, I believe, maybe just commingling or the operation, the functions, merging, or you're saying, no, you can't merge. All right, this is something going to begin to fragment the entire operation. It appears to be that way on the surface, but Mr. Padilla is his district. He wants to assert jurisdiction, and this is going to be prolonged in terms of the contentious situation here, and I'm going to vote for it since you're asking for it.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Chair recognizes Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, actually, several things, but beginning with a correction. This is not a matter, Mr. Holden, within my district. It's in a different part of the city, but part of the confusion and the process here is, this is the first time for a lot of us going through this. First time we created the department, first time we established the commission a couple of years ago, first time neighborhood councils are being organized. So in some steps of the process and some of the rules that are being followed or intended to be followed, some questions have arisen. And so this is the first time, maybe not the last time, that something like this is going to be brought to the council as an appeal. According to the charter section that talks about neighborhood councils and the actions of the commission, there's a section in there that does say if certain decisions or actions of the commission can be appealed, then the recourse for a neighborhood council or a neighborhood council in the organizing stage of it can appeal to the full council by directing a letter to the president. So my office did receive a letter recently from some of the people who came and spoke in public comment today, and we're sort of creating an analogy here to the Section 245, previously known as the Prop 5, of whether or not the City Council should assert jurisdiction over this Board of Neighborhood Councils Commission action. So the question is, should we assert jurisdiction, yes or no? Second, if we assert jurisdiction, the city attorney has already advised us there's only so many things we can do. We probably can't go in there and change the commission action. It's either an up or down for us or request to the commission to revisit this matter. The other questions that we had before us are, do we want to assert jurisdiction over this specific application, this specific action of the board as it relates to these specific neighborhood councils in a boundary dispute, or should we just raise a discussion in committee about the policies in general as they pertain to boundaries and boundary disputes and apply those across the board and let the commission do what they will on this specific application? So by no means do I introduce this motion as a way to result in a predetermined outcomes, but I think it is very important to hear from all stakeholders in this, the people who have come to the council today, from our city attorney, from our board, from the department staff, hear from all the different perspectives here and figure out, is there a role for the council to play to not only assist in this situation, but in future equal or similar situations, or is the best action for the council to, not get involved with these? What are restrictions or requirements based on the charter, based on the law? These are the questions that need to be raised in committee and fleshed out one way or the other. So that was my intent for bringing in the motion. Other council members have said, the people in the community deserve their day in court. If they're dissatisfied with the commission, what's their recourse? The council seems to be the logical next step, and so that's what we intend to do via this motion, and I would ask for your support.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilmember Burnson.
Yes, members of the council, for 24 years we've had advisory councils that were structured in the 12th district, one for each community. Each area had their own planning committee and so forth. We never had territorial or jurisdictional conflicts. The problem is when we approved the charter, these things were not spelled out specifically on how these advisory councils should be structured. And frankly, this is going to continue. We've had fights in the district now with some of the existing groups, and there's battling all over the city on these things. We need to go back and redraft that ordinance or amendment to the charter, whatever it takes, and put some structure in this so everybody understands what the boundaries are and how it functions. Otherwise, this is going to continue, and it's going to impact the entire intent of getting the public involved in the process of making decisions in our city. I know I've had tremendous success with mine. They've been a great assistance with me, particularly in land use issues and transportation, where people have actually reviewed every single case. This is the type of participation we need, not fighting over what the boundaries are going to be or who's going to represent that or who can belong. In our advisory councils, anybody who wanted to participate could belong. Some of the committees, on planning committees, we tried to get a cross-section so we wouldn't have it weighted in favor of everybody that wanted development or everybody who wanted no development. We need to rethink this process. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and I would suggest that maybe the president of the council send it to rules or someplace and try to devise something, Alex, that we can adopt that will put everything in its place.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. If I can just make an observation, I think we have about 40 neighborhood councils approved, and I think we've had boundary disputes maybe on 2 or 3 of them that haven't been able to be resolved. So I think mostly it's working. But at this point, we do have the motion in front of us to take over the jurisdiction and then refer this matter to committee. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, that motion and request is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right, that matter is approved. It will next be heard in Education and Neighborhoods Committee. Thank you for coming down. Madam Clerk, next on the agenda?
Do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Yes, let's clear the desk.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Gruhl requests to be excused Wednesday, December 11th to leave at 11:30. A motion is required.
Ms. Perry moves, Mr. Pacheco seconds. If that is approved.
Councilmember Galanter requests to be excused January 14th, 15th, and 17th for jury duty, city business that meets council policy.
Ms. Galanter is excused for jury duty.
Councilmember Weiss requests to be excused January 17th to leave at 11:30 for city business that meets council policy.
Mr. Weiss is excused.
Councilmember Pacheco requests to be excused Wednesday, December 11th to arrive at 11 a.m. and also Friday, December 13th. Those are both for city business, and a motion is required on both.
Mr. Garcetti moves, Mr. Reyes seconds. That is approved.
That clears the desk for closed session.
All right. We now need to clear the chambers so that we can go into executive session to discuss the matters with our attorney. Sergeant, please assist in clearing the room.
Welcome back into open session. Madam Clerk, next item before us, please.
That clears the desk, Mr. President.
Okay, members, are there any announcements today? Any announcements? Mr. Garcetti.
Colleagues, we had a little ceremony with Mr. Labange and Ms. Galanter outside, but today is December 10th, which is International Human Rights Day throughout the city. Hope that people are celebrating. It marks the day that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, written by many Americans, including Eleanor Roosevelt and peoples of other countries, was first put before the United Nations and passed without opposition, and really lays forward a blueprint not only internationally of what we need to do, but also locally to ensure human rights. So wanted to mark and commemorate that day. It's one of the few holidays we have throughout the world where people share regardless of religion or ethnic background or nationality or gender and age. So happy Human Rights Day.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Ms. Miskowski.
I would just like to announce for the members of the public that tonight we are going to have the lighting ceremony. It's going to be the first time ever both simulcast over Channel 35, where we have simultaneously the lightings of City Hall, Van Nuys City Hall, San Pedro City Hall, and I think the oldest of the bunch, the 1907 Old Venice City Hall. And various council members are going to be in each of those districts with neighborhood councils and support, and it will be televised live, I believe, at 6 o'clock tonight, so people can watch and tune in or come out to any one of those locations for those various areas in the city.
Great announcement. Other announcements? Please rise for adjourning motions. Ms. Galanter.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the council to join in adjourning in memory of Glenn T. McNamee, who was a city employee for, I think, close to 30 years. Unfortunately, he passed away only a couple of years after he retired. He grew up he was born in Omaha, Nebraska. He actually attended Boys Town, USA during high school, and having learned the principles of Boys Town, he decided to make his future work involving helping young people. And so he came to Los Angeles in 1967, spent a very short time working for the county, and then joined the city during the Mayor Yorty administration, and worked for the rest of his career helping the city help young people and making sure that, and then he worked as an assistant to the Director of Special Investigations, where successful fraud and abuse prosecutions set the foundation for ensuring integrity in our own city funding. He is survived by his two sons, Aaron and Thomas, who are both residents of Los Angeles, his domestic partner, Margot Hinson, his stepchildren, Jackie and Shanae, and at the request of the family, in lieu of flowers, contributions are asked for in his name for the Watts Labor Community Action Committee. He's obviously somebody who's made a big contribution to our city, and we were very sad to learn of his passing.
Other tributes? Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I would like us to adjourn today in the memory of Pam Edwards. Pam passed away on Thanksgiving Day. This year she was 53. Pam and her husband founded Cheer for Children, which was an all-volunteer organization in the South Bay that brought comfort to thousands of sick and handicapped children. She made sure that they were fed on Thanksgiving and Christmas and made sure that they had toys and other things all year long. Pam's love continued all year, not just at Thanksgiving and Christmas, but through parties for these children all year long. President Bush actually awarded her one of the 1,000 Points of Light in 1991. And even though Pam suffered from lupus, a very debilitating disease, for many years, she always worked tirelessly for Cheer for Children, and its volunteer base has grown from hundreds to thousands of people. So she made sure that the organization would survive even after her death, and according to everybody that's been commenting recently, it will. I knew Pam in the early 90s when I worked for a company that served Redondo Beach, and she convinced me to make sure that my company also was involved in helping with some of these donations. Josh Grossberg of the Daily Breeze captured her death well when he wrote that Edwards died on Thanksgiving meant that she would be remembered on that day from now on by those who knew her. We owe her a huge debt of gratitude for remembering the children that sometimes get forgotten. So I would ask that we adjourn in Pam's memory today.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, these are sad occasions for us, especially during the holiday seasons. We have Juliette Salas. She just passed away on November 28th. She's a longtime resident of the 10th District, and her husband is a well-known activist in the community, Coy Salas. She leaves two daughters, Samantha and Nicole. Her husband, Coy, as I mentioned. Coy, 16 years ago, was running for office in the 10th District. And of course, that's when I got to meet his family. And he decided that he would not do that, and he supported me, and then we all became well acquainted thereafter. So we asked that we adjourn in her memory. She's given a lot to our community. She's a health provider. I was a health provider, a registered nurse, and for many years helped so many. Mr. President, members, also Josie Lewis She was 85 years old at the time of her passing, active in the Fifth Avenue Neighborhood Watch Club, attended Second Baptist Church for a number of years. She was in poor health for some time, but she never gave up her faith and stood right there to the very end. Came to Los Angeles in 1959 and lived in the 10th District. Funeral services will be December 13th, Friday, at the Simpson Mortuary in Inglewood. She leaves her daughter, Jo Helens Shoemate, and 2 adult grandsons, Thornton Hill and Nora Shoemate, and certainly she's going to be severely missed. Mr. President, members, a former colleague, Senator Bill Green, passed away, and I got a call from his wife, and they're going to have memorial services for him on Saturday the 14th at the Sheraton Hotel on J Street in Sacramento. But just a little story about Senator Green. He worked for Zimmerman Diamond and then Senator Donnelly, and then he worked the front desk. He was a reader. For those of you who've been to Sacramento, and the clerk stands there and read the bills with a nice, deep voice. He was a radio announcer prior there too, but he was a reader. He read the bills on the Assembly side, and then when the Senator Donnelly became a senator, he ran for the Assembly, and the rest is history. He ran for the state Senate, and the Mayor Bradley at the time was supporting a guy named Washington. He was on the school board, and Washington was ahead and winning the election, and 3 precincts had not come in South Central. And when they came in, Washington almost got no votes, and Green flipped the coin, and he got elected. So
Those were the cemetery precincts.
No, they were legitimate votes. But he made it all happen. And one thing I learned from Senator Green as I served with him in the Senate, we learned from my colleagues, and I learned from him and others who were there before me. And when he was carrying a bill to support the mayor then, Bradley, and on the redevelopment agencies that were trying to be abolished here in the city of Los Angeles. Effort to do that, tremendous, severely. And Senator Green didn't do too well that particular day, and he stood up on the floor and said, you know, politics is a strange game, but you get what you can get. He amended the bill, he was able to be successful, and he said, you get what you can get, and otherwise, and then you move on. So I learned from that, and I always think about it sometime when I'm in trouble, but we make it work, and we get what we can get. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me the time to share the stories with you.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Ms. Mizikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the past week, we lost 2 very esteemed writers who had made their mark in Los Angeles. One was Bella Stumbo, who was an LA Times reporter who used to write the most incisive profiles of people. Sometimes the profiles and the comments which were made, which were completely unguarded, got some of the people in trouble, and some of the quotes became reasonably nationally known. But she had that ability to just become one with the person whom she was interviewing. They let down all their guards and just talked freely to her, and that was really her talent as a writer. It made it enjoyable to read the articles. She died at the age of 59, having suffered from lung cancer as a consequence of another part of her lifestyle was not ever to give up the smoking. But as she was succumbing to the disease, she became known to go around to high school campuses to give real testament as to why high school kids should not take this up, and brought the paraphernalia and the other things that sustained her life to show them what they faced if they decided to be that independent spirit that she had been. She was really well respected, well loved in the Times community, and will be missed. The other person who died this last week was John Weaver. For those who have been around City Hall a long time, this was a person who became known, and I think probably John Weaver and his wife Harriet Weaver, participating with the Hillside Federation and others, became really the father of our brush clearing laws. In the 1970s, when we first started this effort, and obviously many of the Hillside residents realized what was going on, it took awful lot of time to get citizens to be made aware, the city to be made aware of the importance of that with the fire department. And John Weaver and his wife Harriet, who predeceased him, were historical in that regard. But John, in his own right, was also a writer. He had actually righted a racial injustice. He wrote The Brownsville Raid, about the 1906 Brownsville, Texas raid that occurred in that community, which as a consequence led then-President Theodore Roosevelt to discharge 167 black soldiers dishonorably. John, who had visited that as a child and whose father had actually been a newspaper reporter back then, kept telling him the story. And in 1970, John Weaver wrote the story of the Brownsville raid, which in subsequent years caused those soldiers, their dischargement, to be changed from dishonorable to honorable. There were 167 soldiers who'd been involved in this. One of them was still alive in 1970 when the book was written, and the change was made. So he was then eligible for pension, got that money. There were a number of widows of those soldiers who also survived, and they got some remuneration from the government as well. But John was always a person concerned about righting racial injustice. I'm sorry that Tom isn't here, because Tom, I know, would know him. John wrote wonderful stories. As president of the Friends of UCLA Library, he was writing always about the good things in Los Angeles, the spots to go and visit. He was a wonderful Los Angeles historian, as well as a historian to right wrongs where he found it. And he died at age 90 in Las Vegas, where he had been suffering from Alzheimer's in recent years. But he really made his mark on this city, and I am happy to ask the council to adjourn in his memory.
Thank you. Other tributes? Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'd ask that you join me in adjourning in memory of a true legend and pioneer in the entertainment world who passed away last week at the age of 78. His name was Edgar J. Sherrick. And it was interesting because last week, Roone Arledge, a very well-known president of ABC News and Sports, also passed away, and there have been a number of tributes to him on the air. One thing you've seen is a tribute to the show Wide World of Sports. Well, that was Mr. Sherrick's show. He brought Peyton Place to television. He produced the first Woody Allen movie, Take the Money and Run, and had an enormous list of accomplishments in the entertainment field, both television and film. And his sons were all friends of mine growing up, Greg, Jay, Brad. He's also survived by a daughter, Christine. Thank you.
I think we add Monday Night Football to that list as well.
That was Mr. Arledge's creation, not Mr. Sherrick's.
Other tributes? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.